Behind me is an artwork titled Gesture. It is a piece that I made for September 11th. It's comprised of 3,000 paintings, one for each person who died that day. It's a work that I spent 3 years making. A gesture is something you do with your body. A gesture is something you do for someone else, is sort of to indicate meaning in some way. A gesture in art terms is also a gesture drawing is a drawing that's done very quickly to sort of indicate action. It's not meant to be a finished, sort of polished piece of work. On September 11th, 2001, I was living in Manhattan on 21st Street. It's a strange thing that I was, a mile or so away from it, and yet I was as distant as someone watching it from across the country. But later on, I could smell it. So a few days later, I returned to my studio, and the world had changed, I had changed, and I didn't feel inclined to return to the work I was doing at the time. I don't even remember what it was. And I just started drawing these very basic stick figures and sort of gestural drawings, kind of thinking about what was happening, responding to it. And after I had 100 or 200, it started to form an idea in my mind about a larger piece. And at that point, they had no idea how many people had been lost. They were saying maybe 6,000. So I just sort of brazenly said, I'm going to make one for everybody who's been lost. It ended up being 3,000, and it took several years. It evolved over time. They're in several stages. Some of the pieces are stick figures, very basic, quick indications of human beings. There's also a sort of shorthand that I developed pretty quickly, which is the image of a lowercase I, which is the head and the body. It's a shorthand for that worked for me, and kind of an empathetic gesture. And over time, all the imagery started coming out. The pictures from the media started being published, and I looked at those. And I just started looking around me and seeing how other people were responding to the events happening in the world. I think it was cathartic for me to depict images of the harsher realities of how these people died. I was fixating on it a little bit, as I think most people probably were, in an empathetic response, and it was a way for me to kind of digest it and kind of purge it, I guess, a little bit from my soul to take it and do something with that energy. It's about memory. That's why it's presented randomly. It's not a chronological thing. I think memory comes at you sort of all at once, and then the hierarchical mind sorts it into, right, this happened and this happened and then this happened. But the subconscious doesn't remember in that way. And I hope this kind of gets back to the subconscious of remembering that moment and everything that's happened since.